I actually came up with that whole thing, the rhythms and the little lead part there on an acoustic guitar during a storm. I'll share that with you at the end of the video, but first I want to take you behind the scenes and show you everything that I do whenever I get an idea in my head and how I translate that very quickly onto the DAW here. So what I like to start with, and you heard the rhythm, is, well, just playing the rhythm a few different times. Something like that. That's not exactly what I played just now, but that part's not really important right now because again, we are writing. So your initial, the first tidbit of information I want to give you is the initial riff that you write. That may change. It may change like 10 times over because as you play it more, you're like, okay, well, I'm hearing some different stuff. So give yourself the freedom for it to change without overthinking it. So there's like a fine line down the center somewhere, if that makes sense. But in any case, what I like to do first is get into the studio, get into the DAW, and I want to play around with some drum loops and some different BPMs. Now that's more of a slower pace, so I kind of already know just because I do this often, right, for YouTube and writing my own music. I already know I'm probably in the ballpark of like 125 to 140 BPM, something like that. So in this case, I've got my DAW set at 133 BPM. Again, you don't have to keep it there. You can alter these as you go. And what I'm using for this specific example, I'm actually using Bogren Digital's Trivium drums. Actually, it's the first time I've really dug into the Trivium. You guys saw my video on the Krimh drums. I'll leave a link to that video in the description so you can go back and watch that later. I don't program drums. I think most of you guys know this because again, I'm just doing this for YouTube. I'm just doing this to get song ideas down. This is just to help with writing. I like to use the loops that are already created. So as you can see, we've got a lot of loops here and the Trivium. Let me show you the drum set here. I always like to look at the kits because, you know, I mean, this doesn't mean anything to me right now. It just looks cool. Let's go back to the grooves. So you've got different grooves. You know, you got different loops here. Okay, so I already know that doesn't quite fit the rhythm that I was playing. So I'll just go through different loops at the ballpark BPM that I think I want to be in. And of course, we can keep changing that, right? I can go 133 to 140 or 129, whatever. You can play around with that as you experiment with these different loops. So going through, hold on. Okay, and I think that's actually the one that I'm using here. So already I know that something like that is going to work. Now, here I don't overthink things. I just go ahead and I will drag this loop into my track, which I've already got it right here. I had this set up before this part, so I think that's the same loop I used. So I've got a drum track. In other words, if I were to press play, I drag that into my track here. Here we go. Okay, and again, I think that's the same loop that we just messed around with, but I know that that's gonna be more inclined to fit what I'm writing here. So think about that as you're going through different loops. Now, if you want to get deep into the programming of drums, feel free to do that. I'm not gonna say you shouldn't do that. If that's something you want to mess around with, that's fine. I'm not going to use these drums, though, for anything professionally. I would hire the drummer to record that if it were for an album. And again, I'm doing this specific track for YouTube, and who knows, it might turn into a song. I don't know. That's the cool part about writing stuff, right? So in any case, I like to keep things as simple as I possibly can for the writing and or recording for YouTube videos or social media videos, okay? So we've got the drum track. I've got my BPM set. What I do, I'll show you this real quick. You can see we've got the drum track here. I duplicated that. So like, let me just do this real quick. If I delete this track, okay, this is the one track I had. I'm using PreSonus Studio One, by the way. I can press the D button and it just duplicates the track. Sometimes I'll continue pressing the D button and duplicate the track for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes. But typically what I'll do is I'll just do that for one part of the song. And then as I go to the next part, I know we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves here, but as I go to the next part from verse to chorus or bridge or whatever, then I might start playing around with different loops and then drag them in at the appropriate times, if that makes sense. Another thing I do is I put the clicker on, the click track, so you're going to hear that click, 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 because I want to hear the count off before the drums start. Now you could extend the drum loop out. You could do like this right here. We're going to do a little light programming here. So instead of the click track, I drug that part out. There's nothing there, as you can see. We can double click on this and go here, and if I want something cooler than a click, I could just add, okay, just add a little cymbal, okay. So now instead of the click track would sound like this. And that's fine, but since I extended the drum piece and since I did some drum programming, I just, clicked for a little cymbal to be in there. Now I'm going to have this instead. Okay, so a little bit more motivating to start with. That's just one of those really minute things. Doesn't really mean a whole lot. So let's record this first guitar track here, guys. Let's do that. Now, we've got something to work with, and honestly, you could take this, what we just did, and you can run with it. You've got your drums, you've got your rhythm guitar, and now you pretty much have something. You've got like a foundation. What I usually immediately start doing after this is I will start working on different parts of the song. In this case, because I had a rhythm and I had a very specific lead part, okay, that you heard in the beginning. I want to share that with you because that is actually what came up first. Again, please hang around to the end of the video. I want to share a short clip that shows you how I came up with this during a hurricane, by the way, on the patio when the power was out with my acoustic. Hang around for that. So a lot of times I'll start working on the other part of the song, like, okay, well, that sounds like a chorus. What could the verse be? What could a bridge be? And I'll start just working on different parts, maybe work with some different drum loops, right, to get something different. In this case, though, since I really want to get this lead pattern down, because that was a melody that I had in my head, what I'm going to do, I like to clean up the tracks here. I am going to, and I've already got the tracks created. I've already got them like ready to go. By the way, real quick, the amp sim I'm using, and you guys probably saw the video on this, Bogren Digital's Ampknob. This is the BDH series. They're 51, what's this called? The 5169 or something like that. Or 68, whatever it is. But anyway, this is the BDH by Bogren Digital. Love these amp sims. And I'll share the link to that as well in the description. So I'll have the Krimh drums and the BDH amp knob in the description of this video. Go check those out later. In any case, that's what I'm using. Now, you guys know, when I record 2 guitar tracks, that's what we're about to do. I like to hard pan these tracks. So I'll hard pan the track I just recorded all the way to the left, or the right, doesn't matter, and I'll make sure the other track, I've already got it panned, is panned the opposite direction. So one track's going here, one track's going there. The reason I do that is because it just creates a really cool mix, a really cool sound. It's just like this big spacey stereo type thing. So most of you know that already, but I like to share that in case you haven't ever experimented with that before, or if you have not heard me say that on my channel here. So let's record a second guitar track. Sometimes I record the same thing. We're going to experiment a little bit, though. I'm going to play something kind of different this time. My little slide on the ending, I know that was off, but hey, we can redo these another time. The next thing I like to do, and this is sort of premature, you don't have to do this. Again, guys, I'm just giving you, just sharing my process with you. It doesn't make it the right process, doesn't mean it's the right way. It's just a way, and it's the way that I do things. Before I mark down, or record rather, this little lead part that we're about to do, I like to put some bottom end in there. So hang tight just one second. Let's record the bass track here, okay? So let me go to my bass. Let's make sure that we've got, I have a very specific bass pick. I've got a little bowl full of guitar picks here. It's funny, this bowl actually came from a restaurant in Bangkok, Thailand. We're eating at an Isan Thai restaurant right by Lumpini Park. I don't recall the name of it. In any case, my special pick is in here somewhere. I think it is anyway. Maybe it's not. Okay, I'm not going to bore you with looking for my bass pick because I can't seem to find it anywhere. We're just going to pick another pick. How about that? All right. We'll pick the Museum of Metal. That's Tampa Bay Museum of Metal. My buddy Death Metal Dave, he owns that. Pretty cool stuff. Let's play the bass track of that pick. By the way, real quick, I like to share this stuff along the way. I am using, yet again, another Bogren digital plugin called the STD Classic. This is their bass knob. Pretty cool plugin, guys. One knob. That's why I love these. I know it sounds like I'm advertising them. I'm not sponsored by Bogren Digital, but I do have affiliate links to their products. So again, check those videos out after you watch this video. I like their stuff. I reached out to them like, you guys have some awesome plugins. They're easy to use. You drag it into the track and you're good. I mean, you've got the tone that you want. Anyway, let's lay this bass track down really quickly. And I'll just share the full mix with you here too, okay? We'll turn that on. And the slides are way off again on that. Again, that's stuff we can touch up later. All right, so we've got bass, we've got the guitars here. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes. Well, that's kind of the meat and potatoes right there. Let's put the icing on the cake, the hot sauce on the chicken wings, whatever. The lead guitar track, let's do that. Let's hear how I came up with this. This is the original idea right here. Alright, so the chords, this is an F sharp minor. To a B. That's the chords, and this would be like with a keyboard. Something like that. So that was done during Hurricane Milton. I live in the Tampa Bay area, Seffner, Florida to be exact. And thank you, by the way, to all of you who checked on us. We didn't have any major damage or anything like that. Very fortunate, but we were without power for a few days, I think almost 4 days. So of course, at night, I'm on the patio playing guitar. I've got some candles lit up and you know, a couple beers maybe, and I'm just playing acoustic because, I mean, what else are you going to do, right? So I came up with these ideas. I have several that I filmed here, just like the one you saw. And I encourage you, whenever you have a melody, try to get that down as quickly as possible. Like, try to record that, even if it's just on your phone, like I just did, even if it's in the dark. I probably could have put a candle a little bit closer. But then what I like to do is also start coming up with the supporting parts, the rhythm parts that are going to hold that together, the platform, the foundation, right? Which again is the rhythm. I always tell you guys, you know, I love playing leads. I love to shred. I love melodies. You guys know I love melodies more than anything. But without the rhythm piece, you know, you really don't have much of anything. So you want to get that down as well. And you just kind of figure out, okay, well, the notes I'm hearing, this is what I'm playing on guitar. Well, let me figure out, you know, what that note is, you know, for a chord. How do we figure that out? And it just takes some playing around. And in this case, I recorded several times. I didn't show you all the videos, but I recorded the rhythm several times and then went and played that melody that I had in my head over that to see what fit. It didn't take me too long to figure out, okay, F sharp minor, D, E, okay, and then a C sharp minor on top of that. And I wanted to share this process with you on when I come up with something, what do I do next? And we'll just quick recap here. So that was probably part one there. And of course, coming up with the melody. I can't really tell you how to do that. That's just, that has to come from within inside you. And I think the more you play, the more things will come out like that. Give yourself freedom, guys. I've been saying this a lot on my channel over the past probably year or so. Please give yourself the freedom to explore. Like, get any preconceived notions of what you think it may need to sound like, or what you think someone else might like, or someone else might think it needs to sound like. Just scratch all that from your head and give yourself the freedom to come up with things and just pull out what's inside of you. Even if it's simple, it doesn't always have to be complicated, right? I tell you guys this all the time. Sometimes we think, well, the rhythm's just not complicated. It's got to be a real complex metal rhythm or lead or whatever. No, it doesn't. I mean, if it is, that's great, that's awesome. But if it's not, that's great too. Give yourself the freedom. So after that step number one, coming up with whatever melody, you know, getting that down somehow and then tying some sort of rhythm to it, we go into the studio here, and then I like to start messing around with some drum loops with a BPM. I just play around like, okay, well, this drum loop, okay, that doesn't work. That's too fast, or might be too slow if you are writing a complex rhythm, right? So I do that, and I mess around with BPMs. I really don't spend a whole lot of time on that. I just get something down so that I can start recording that rhythm guitar track, which is the next step. I like to record that initial rhythm guitar track, record that, and maybe I'll play along with that and listen to it and like, okay, well, I recorded that, but maybe I don't like that so much. Maybe I need to change some things. I don't spend a whole lot of time there, but I will probably re-record that, you know, 2, 3, sometimes 10 times. Maybe I do spend a lot of time on that. Once I get that down, you can do one of two things. You can start working on the rest of the song. However, if you already have an idea in your head of what you want the second guitar to sound like, you guys know I like to record 2 guitar tracks, 2 rhythms, hard pan each one, and sometimes I like to do something a little different with that second guitar track. That's what I was feeling in this case. Sometimes I don't do that. Sometimes I just play the same thing, right? I might do a little harmony piece. You guys know I love to harmonize rhythms. We've done several videos on harmonizing rhythms lately, by the way, so do check out my rhythm playlist, okay? But sometimes I'll record the same thing. Now, one question that might come up, well, Jason, if you're recording the same thing on the second guitar, why not just duplicate that guitar track? Well, that doesn't do anything. That just increases the volume. The reason I play 2 performances, even if I'm playing the exact same thing, is because no 2 performances are exactly the same. And that's the beauty of writing and recording music. It gives it life. Now, you don't want it to be like way off, like, okay, well, those notes were way off, so, you know, go record that. But you're going to have these little nuances in between the 2 tracks. Now, the next step I like to do is I do like to put a bass track track down before I put any leads or melodies down. I like to have that fullness, okay? To me, that is much more inspiring to play those solos along with. So it's kind of like having just a full band behind you that you just created in your studio. So I'll lay down the bass track at that point. And again, these rhythms and bass tracks, they may change. I may go back and hear other things later and like, okay, well, let's refine that a bit, but we're just getting the idea down for now. And then finally, I'll go back and I'll record my lead guitar track, which I did something pretty simple here. Again, this was like this melody I had in my head. I'm like, man, where's this coming from? I like this. And of course, I'll add some little, fancy stuff at the end or whatever, but I really didn't want this lead part to be over the top. I just wanted to have this cool, memorable melody to go over this part. Now, for this song, I could be playing that melody part during the chorus of a song. You know how some songs, they have the vocals, but there's this lead guitar playing in the background, just some real simple melodies to complement the vocals. So I might use this for something like that. Then when it comes time for the actual guitar solo in the middle or intro or whatever, I might shred a little bit more on that part, right? So there's no rules, right? There are no rules to this. I want you to, again, give yourself the freedom to do what you think sounds best. Guys, if you like this sort of video, please give it a thumbs up and let me know. Let me know if this helped you. I mentioned a couple videos earlier, and I'll link to those in the description. So the Krimh drums, I've got a whole video on that. I use the Trivium drums in this, but the Krimh, you use them the same way. So I'll link to that up there. I'm using Bogren Digital's Ampknob, the BDH. I'll link to that video up there. And if you missed my last lesson, well, hey, I'll put that one down there for you. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Keep it metal and keep playing music.